We're recording.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Master Planning Group session, April 16th. Hello, Mark. Wow, we have a forum, so this is great. Okay, call the meeting to order. All right, so we have 5 items on the agenda for today. We're talking splash pad update, talk about town hall renovation. I talk about the status of the multi-purpose court RFP. We're going to go through the master plan tracker that I sent out SPAC. We're going to talk about the CCDD site report that will adjourn the meeting. Before we begin, do you have any questions or comments about the agenda? Any items that we would like to add? Okay, great. Let's talk first about splash pad. So I'm excited with the progress that we're making with the splash pad project. We've identified a project plan which North sent out to all of you. It's got 23 sub-projects on it. We lost a couple. Kitty was asking me 2 years ago. We lost a few weeks, maybe 2 weeks, but just trying to get the contract signed. And that was ensuring that we met the needs and requirements of celebration, which the needs and requirements of celebration, and based on past projects and issues, the vendor found it cumbersome. So we negotiated, got a resolution to cover these. But we are now at the phase where Splash Pad USA has retained their engineering firm who are doing the final plans for us to submit or get the permits. That's progressing. We are having a weekly meeting between Gray Manners, Splash Pad USA, and myself to go through each one of the 23 projects. We've identified a staging area. We've identified what the construction area would look like, what sort of fencing, all sorts of items that we can do while the designs and permitting process is taking place. So bottom line is, I think everybody's going to find that the vendor, Splash Pad USA, has been very responsive, very helpful. The one bit of news we should get next week, for those of you who aren't familiar, remember the diagram, it's a 1,600 square foot area where we will have the splash pad. The area from within inside the fence is greater than 1,600 feet. And so from the splash pad footprint to the fence is probably several feet of an apron that needs to be addressed, because right now it's cracked concrete that's there, and when they do the excavation, it will become even more cracked. It's also sloping, so we have to figure out a solution to that that's out of scope for splash pad, because their scope is to put splash pad. I informed them that may be out of scope, but just tell the guy with the backhoe, good luck. He puts that backhoe in, not to crack my apron, and they got a laugh out of it. So I said, so we're going to have to, since they're already going to have the backhoe there, they're already going to have cement trucks there, they're already going to have do site prep. They hopefully will be able to do the apron, and so it's one cohesive piece. They're working on a bid what that might look like, but until they get the architectural plans back, they don't know how many square feet. So
that would be funded out of the reserves.
Yeah,
funded last year.
I think we got funded, so we're working on that. That's our first little wrinkle, but it's a good wrinkle because last thing you want to do is have built splash pad surrounded by an ugly concrete gray apron, right? And that's difficult because of the slope of the land, which would continue because you want slope for drainage purposes, etc. So anyway, going well. No help needed. As I said, the next key milestone will be when we get the plans back and submit for permitting which hopefully is in the next 2 to 3 weeks. The current schedule here has a lot of contingency in it. It's longer than what we committed to the Pro Board, but I'm confident we'll get back some time on that. Questions, comments?
Just a quick question. I looked at the blueprint there. What's the access? The access gonna be the same as the kiddie pool was?
Yes, the card
You
reader.
go through the pool entrance.
Yes, yeah, there was some discussion, but right now it's a card reader.
Yeah, the last board workshop, there was some discussion on it because the Celebration High School shuts down the pool 3 days a year. For meetings as part of it. So there was some discussion and also with how many people are using Lakeside. Residents, should there be separate access to the splash pad? That has to happen.
But still out every day of the year.
Well, plus if you put a separate entrance, now you gotta go put concrete in there, et cetera.
Sorry, the splash pad will be closed. Please cheer on.
Well, but it's for 3 or 4 hours that day, it's not the entire day. I mean, it'd be close more for rain and lightning. The last item, Warren, I meant to ask you this, but so there is a tree,
Yes,
a cedar tree
Mhm.
that is roughly 15 feet from the splash pad or 20 feet that is already wreaking havoc on the
it
front
needs to come out, yes.
What, okay, how does that happen?
We would need to get bids for
Okay.
removal and put it in front of the Pro Board.
Okay.
For the sake of the pool and the splash pad, that tree. needs
Yeah,
to
just
come
that,
out.
that's
And
already wrecking
it's
havoc.
also encroaching on the playground, the roots are coming up underneath.
Yes, yeah, and we plant another tree there, so we maintain, the biosphere, or whatever you call it, we're not one down, one up, just not an invasive cypress tree.
Yeah.
Okay, good,
And that would be funded through. RNet.
normal,
Routine payments.
because when we went there, you remember, when we were there 2 years ago, the guy lifted up the astroturf and said, look,
All of
and that's the reason why I said, last thing we wanna do is build the splash pad and have it, 2 years from now cracking because of this tree.
just another thought there, Joe. Even when we take the tree out, those roots are gonna be, are they already there? So when we take the
Yeah.
apron out,
So we've got a,
just think of contingency that there's gonna be some more work that they might not be planning.
it's not just a tree removal, because as I understand, those roots, there need to be some removal.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian Causey from Exquisite is acutely aware of the tree and the issues with the roots.
Excellent. Good. Okay, so no
Are we
other,
gonna get any pushback on that tree?
It's a tree in celebration.
I know, but it's a certain type.
Yes.
it's a sub,
Okay, so just as whatever proposal is the putback, that's gonna be important. Plus it provides decent amount of shade for that period.
I'll put up another tree.
Yeah.
It's lots of shit. I would hope it will get no more or no less pushback than hundreds of trees they're cutting down in Island Village,
That's where,
or whatever. Okay.
don't be surprised.
Oh, okay. Fine. Next topic. Renovation town hall. Mark, maybe you can give us an update.
Yeah, it's fine. Vic and I had we had another meeting. This past week to talk through some of the lighting stuff. So the design is progressing nicely. We're moving forward on this. So it's going. So there's no change in schedule or anything else. I do think, so it's moving along nicely. I think what I may do is take the design development package and see if one contractors I work with broadly the smaller stuff that throw them around it. Just get their interest if where it's at. Or it's all the way there.
Is there a published schedule for the complete project? I'm just thinking, because, we now have
The last schedule we have from Collig is medical drawings in June.
Yes,
So that Jacob and I spoke to Click after our recent meeting and asked them to send us the monetary of the remaining tasks in their first proposal and adding in the RFP management piece to that, because that was not in the original proposal. They are aiming to get that back to us by the second week. Well, no, before the board workshop in May, so the board can approve that, and then they can start working in tandem on writing the RFP and prepping for that once they get to middle drawings in June. So they're working on that in tandem.
okay. So that's really
Then we
good.
would have a clearer project timeline once you have bids back.
So they're putting together the RFP for contractors.
Yeah.
But that's fine, but only what we tried to do when we did the last report is just a little. So we think this is gonna put the RFP out, we think at that state. A month for response back, a month for permitting, a month, and 6 months to do the work. So just like we have 23 projects here with dates, because dates says I'm told something.
We outlined that.
Okay, but I don't know why, given the significance and importance, so we can look at it and say, no, we can't do that. Yes, we can do that, as opposed to we're working really hard at each step, which is great. But to lay out the next 15 steps with dates.
Yeah, I can create a new loop board.
I just think it will start to, perhaps they get some dialogue from Mark and others like, that's reasonable, that's not reasonable. Because I think the community is probably, depending upon who you talk to, I don't know what expectations are as to when the project will be complete. But
What did we say? What was our report? Did we say January?
we said first quarter.
First quarter.
Yeah, and I, I don't.
Yeah, I think the first word is gonna depend on when contractors approving their construction schedules. So, and permits for that. So,
One thing we should start talking from the growth perspective is once we have the zones, first, yes, you need to have visibility to that, but also, okay, let's be frank about what this could cost, right? If this is under a certain amount, then let's not let that be a surprise and move forward if we have qualified bidders. I don't know, how long did it take to write the contract for the splash pad? You know what the turnaround time was?
3 weeks.
Okay, it wasn't terrible.
yeah, that's why we're trying to get an estimate for contractor. Probably find into the project. So why don't just see that we don't understand why it's.
I mean, we can hire groups too to do.
I'd rather, so yeah, that might actually bid on it.
Well, what are the processes for bidding?
For bidding.
If Mark engages with somebody to get a round price, are they disqualified? They're not.
No, I would assume they'd be part of it, so like description.
That's just like.
Are you interested in looking at it? And if you are, of course, you're going to get against.
Yeah.
So we send it to them.
Yeah, you're not a
We do
government
this all the
entity,
time.
so it's not as stringent.
We'll see what someone says anyway, but yeah. Rather just try to see some appointment or two in. I guess. We'll better drink.
I got a generic question. Is this going to be a turnkey operation? There'll be one contractor can do everything in the proposal, everything, including the inside, the outside, the grading.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's one person, one
General
contractor,
general contractor.
one general.
We'll take care of
So
it.
it's going to, so we're going to, in the end, we're going to hear a plan and price.
Yes,
So what the end result's going to be.
right. One day I'll have
So
a bit.
2 people out there.
No.
And throughout the bill, Killen will be doing construction administration to make sure it's to scope.
Just something they do it.
Yeah.
That's part of the basic services of the fire board. So no concerns there. We just need qualified contractors. This thing's of a size, so I think there's some that we're getting pretty high level. Would be interested.
So are you gonna, how are we gonna put that bid list together? You've got ideas, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, you give me a suggestion, whatever. I'm gonna find some. There's literally contract for us all for one. Yeah.
So you're looking for a visible room.
Oh, yeah, there's
They'll
lots
do
of,
the show. You don't have.
oh, yeah, right, we don't have to do it. I've got a game set products, they'll throw it in the bucket. And then when it comes time to bid, we'll send an RFP to them, whoever else. That'll come up.
But yeah, if you have contractors that you think would be good to bid, just send the list to us and we'll send it to Click. So when Click's ready to send out the RFP, then
Yeah.
we'll send it out to everybody.
That's my point, but I didn't want to.
Yeah.
For my own benefit, I didn't know how.
Yeah, but that's important work that you have so that when we get the RFP done, we've got
Pre-qualified.
pre-qualified list of bidders. We're comfortable with any one of them.
Yeah.
Based upon our knowledge, working relationships.
Just, from a capital fund standpoint, we're at 3.9 million at the end of March. So far through March, we've got 292,000, the capital fee is on sales. Which is, if we didn't change the capital fee, it would be 90,000. So it's 200, a little over 200,000 more. One of the concerns is the majority of 140 homes on the market. Sales have been increasing every month, but a lot of those condos, the fees for condos, at least trying to get out. That's not so much money, but there's a lot of multi-million-dollar homes also still on the market and being sold, and they're selling actually pretty quickly. I suppose. So.
Is 3.9 inclusive of, like when we had the splash pad, that was
6.
6. So it's 3.9 inclusive of that, or we've already peeled that out?
No.
So 3.9 is.
3.9 is.
Okay.
We have projected about 2 million of additional funds this year based on the sales.
Yeah.
And part of that was assuming that phase 2A in Iowa Village would be part of the sales. They're slowing things down a little bit, but they do have foundations now, so they are.
But they just released whole pricing, right? For the floor plans at least.
The floor plans, floor plan, and some of them have changed a little bit from what they were. So they didn't just repeat it, but, so we'll see as we go along. But
3.9.
3.9 and probably move to spending a lot of the money on townhomes until next year.
Yeah, what Jim reviewed with when I was there to Crowley meeting, right? Because the same numbers, right? It's 4 million in the back, 3.9 now. That we would spend $3.5 million. Get the time frame for a second.
Yeah.
3.5 for town hall, 600,000 for the splash pad, other assorted projects, money coming in, and that we would end this year, assuming all the money was spent, all those money spent, with 1.9. So, okay, so that's after spending $4 million on master plan projects.
Yeah. So,
and one of the concerns the board said was, well, suppose home sales slow up, whatever. Well, then you take your foot off the master plan group projects, right? You just constantly be balanced, knowing that this plan always left about, but as Jim did the projections, through the end of next year, about 2 million in the bank. So you spend money, but now you'd say, why you can have 2, but let's assume 2 is your 4.
Yep.
Right? With the spend that, and the timing of our spending, the 600,000 we'll spend this year, 3.5 million will be whenever shovel starts going in the ground in town.
that's comfortable.
Yeah, and talking to realtors, they feel the market is still quite strong. But they expect that rates go down again.
Yeah, so our funding is okay, right? Fine. So the issue is, projects being managed properly, being bid properly, being prioritized properly, and delivering what we said we would do. In our report, by the way, to the town hall, what we finally said in the final report, we said construction would begin in August this year, and move-in would be 2026.
Yeah, that's what I thought we changed it.
We said 2026 would be.
We gave ourselves.
We said construction would start, and we knew August would be very aggressive, but we did that because we figured,
Now, what we can do is, once we have the plans though, and once we submit the permit, currently we can have the league submit, or sorry, once we have the plans and we want to bid, the league can submit for permit. And those can run concurrent.
yes.
So once we get somebody on board, then we'll be
So,
ready.
so,
So there's a little bit of savings on time.
That's part of it. So
excellent. Okay. Thank you, Mark. Next topic on the agenda is still, to Mark, yeah, what it was, take a second. Multi-purpose, courts, update, in terms of where we are with the engineering plan RFP.
The last time we were sitting on it for a moment, so we're sitting on it, which is what it sounds like.
Okay.
Take a look at it.
So what I think we should do, if I could recommend, because we got you doing lots of things, if there's, so people who want to support that project, I'll be one of those people. If somebody else wants to join, Mark, we could join with you and help you with what you've got, because we have a draft somewhere.
yeah, and Mark did a second version of it,
Second
and then we
version.
talked about it.
And then we
2
said,
meetings
table
ago.
it, we said,
Yeah, the last part that needs to be clear is, some of the, what the contract is based on. I really think this needs to be based on the contract, so I need to understand
okay,
what they're trying to base contracts on.
got it. So I,
Mark, do you have a copy of the sample contract? That
It's,
okay,
well, yours. no.
yeah, of the pro one. Okay, I'll send it to you.
Yeah. so-
Do you need colors with that too?
Yes, sir.
just, I think, so we can talk about, which we're gonna get to later on, a little bit all the projects. What I think probably will be helpful, Mark, is if we could, within the next 30, 60 days times, have that RFP done and ready to go.
Yeah,
And then
that's
we
really
can
fun.
issue it, when PROA,
Your last
did-
meeting, you discussed July 1 is the.
that's right, that's right, right, that's July 1. So,
That's still fun.
so I think that gives us 60 days to complete it.
Yeah.
But we keep asking you to do lots of things. We need some help. Because
No,
Marco was gonna be the champion for us on that.
Right, it's, that's what the design team is for, so, we're engaging someone based on the original sketch I did.
Yes,
We'll work with them to decide exactly what courts are blah, 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 and get it all designed correctly, so there's no more definition that really needs to be there. It's really what contract is based on.
okay,
It's my last concern, I've written out the scope. So it's ready to go, except for an understanding of what it's based on,
okay,
so I prefer it to be based on protection contracts as opposed to something more. Whatever growing has, so
okay.
So is the RFP to build or is the RFP for design?
design.
Design.
Yeah.
Because then we would do that, get the design back, get what it would look like, get the price, and then go back to the board. And say, okay, this is what we're thinking, this is what it looks like. This is a lot of history there, right? So we gotta, and this is the price, right? It's it's a price sensitive project. Unlike other projects, this one has got a lot of sensitivity.
Now, I hope that sensitivity is similar, because other things are happening too, right? The whole
Yes.
point at that moment in time was, what else should we spend money on? So I think there's a lot of backup to say, hey, other things have happened. This is part of the plan, right?
I think the feedback I got, which is just anecdotally and my view was, wait a second, you've got town hall. You don't know what town hall is, and that's clearly a priority. So until you know what town hall is, how can you spend $1 million or $2
Yep.
on something?
We know.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
We have progress to show that part of the
Yes,
123 pages of the plan
yes,
is,
yes, exactly. And
like, if you have a question, here's 123 pages to read through.
Right.
And we're following.
yes, we're following it.
Right.
And I think that's the key as we go through is following it, which I think dovetails, if I could go out of order. Just to talk about item E on the agenda, then we'll come back to the master project plan.
Can I finish one thing?
Yeah, sure.
First, so the idea with RFP is go out with the design firm, and actually your comment about the splash pad and then apron, that's the reason why I'm hiring. But bring on a design firm that would oversee the courts designer, civil, everybody, so that everything's taken care of in one set of drawings. So, and we have to coordinate that. So
Excellent.
that's why it'll be an RFP that includes everything, including site that's specialized in codes. I do have one group I know of. Definitely does it.
Work with folks that do their own, so.
Yes.
Some developments.
And building the both were visitors.
Okay.
No, the architect for the design. I don't know. So anyway, to find a set of folks that can oversee the project completely, not just the courts. I know, but special and so we have all of it inclusive. So anyway, that's the point. What will go out.
Great. So just to, further to Alex's last comment, it's part of this report. So we go to, item E on the agenda, which is the CCDD Dick site report that I believe we've all given a link to. The COA board and CCDD agreed to allow us to have a copy to read it and digest it. And so if I'd like to open the floor up for discussions, and I'll start with just a brief. So we did our study, which was based on community input, surveys, and the last 8, 9 other reports, right? And now since then, we've now seen this very professional, thorough report from CCDD/Excite. And my just one observation, just simple, is it's consistent and complementary of the work that we've done. I don't think, and I've missed it, I don't think they found a project that we missed here, or said a project in here is not a good idea. They mentioned us as a positive light, and it's consistent, and putting aside the politics of who wrote which report and all that other stuff, it supports what we've done. That was how I read it. I read it through my lens, which is different than I'm sure other people's, but it supports us. That's what I've got.
I agree with what Jared said, which is there's a lot of mistakes. Having gone to it, like Island Village doesn't have 5 tennis courts unless they're on the ground, but that's what they are. It doesn't mention that we have a fitness center. It says we have a lap pool, which is not a lap pool. So there's a lot of different areas, specific areas and things like that as a general thought. I had a hard time seeing what the conclusion was if there wasn't. But geez.
Well, each section, it also talked about each park area, or area, I should say. Its section on opportunities is always identical to what we have in every single case, and even missing a couple. So it 100% backs up what we said. And we've actually taken one more step and actually literally placed for 6 step. But it's definitely an agreement. To me, the report, all it's doing is giving the math behind it. I'm saying, here's what makes us equivalent, not equivalent to another area. Other than that, we've come up with the exact same thing. So that's
The genesis of it.
I'm sorry,
What caused it to happen?
their report?
Yeah.
I'll speak on your behalf for just a second, and then you. So CROA has a board elected with the responsibility to do strategic plans and update and do as they need. The same is true for CCDD. They have a board who has a need to do a strategic vision and a strategic plan, and but they need to develop. We have a member here, the principal. Yeah. Yeah.
Even this nice podium, my way. So, for the benefit of those that weren't here at the outset of it, after the groundswell of public demands for a master plan, as the CDD, we went through and said, well, we would like to assist in that and do something comprehensive. So what we did is put out an RFP to industry leaders to say, hey, we're looking as a town, do a comprehensive look at all of the existing facilities, and then compare that to other communities that are similar and besides the scope where we are, and use that to identify gaps in services, and then put together that along with some opportunities that are available as far as properties go to develop a master plan, and then show how that would be funded and constructed and maintained. So it was multifaceted. It involved everything, regardless of ownership or authority or who did what. So we just took an overall look at it. What you have now is just a snapshot. It's not complete because the CDD only authorized certain steps. So the step that you have now in front of you is what is termed the discovery phase. And it's really the research showing what is there, what condition is it, where are the opportunities, how does it compare overall to other benchmarks nationally, and then other places that are comparable to where we live. What are some of the emerging demands from residents in other areas, and then identifying those gaps, and then showing some representative samples of other successful communities and other successful projects that could help meet that. So, like I said, we're at the junction right now where the next step would be to get more granular data from the community. And that's stakeholders, which is broadly defined. So we're not talking just residents. We're talking owners, renters. We're talking the business community. We're talking even outside as far as our the members of the county and our other municipalities. Also stakeholders such as the Celebration Company and Canoa and Lexington and officers. So having that and doing a deeper dive would be the next step should the community choose to do this in a joint environment to get that feedback. So that would involve several different methods which the site has put together. If they and what they would do right now as far as briefing where they are, answering questions, refining the report. Because what you have right now is a draft report. So what they did is they went out without any of the CD involvement and did their own research and put that together as a draft and shared it. Say, all right, well, what do you think? What's wrong? What's missing? What are the opportunities to further refine this? Okay. And then sit back and wait. And then do we want to go further? And just to finish my thought, what the next step would be to get those current granular data to get more input on how these identified gaps are prioritized, and then also go through the process of doing the more finer planning and detailing to figure out, all right, well, what does a solution to that particular gap look like and where does it go? And then how do we pay for it and how is it maintained?
Thank you.
So you opened the can of worms. So I'm confused. As always, forgive me, I'm always.
That's all right. I do that too.
So the basic conclusions seem to be the same as what this group came up with before, though it was part of the master planning group. So I sort of an add-on to help maybe run some of the capital projects. But why wouldn't these two things be brought together in a singular plan?
That when we had our joint meeting.
My naivete shows, I understand.
That's exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We had a joint meeting where it was determined that the CD would move forward with Big Site to go through this process, and CROA had I formed the MPAC at the time, I believe, to do a similar master planning process with existing CROA facilities. And we went through the process of hiring the site as a consultant to kind of put a much more broader brush on it, make it
a comprehensive, longer term look.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that, but so this report you're saying is a draft, it's not final.
It's not final
Has it been
because
published?
again, it's just,
Has it been published?
it is public. It is published because everything that we do is public, so we don't.
So it's a draft, so it's a draft, but it's been published.
It's a final, I'll say I call it a final draft, that's an oxymoron. But it is something that we got that, so we published it because we want everybody to see it in its draft form.
All right,
Get feedback and then finalize.
okay.
So I just have a quick question. I mean, are they going to, the things that we have planned, are they still going to say that again, or are they gonna look at things that we don't have planned, put into a kind of final? In other words,
I am not following it.
okay, so we're saying we're gonna put in multi-function. Are they gonna eliminate that from their review because they
No.
know that we're already going? Why wouldn't they?
Because they're not in the manner, we're not master planning yet. This is still in the research phase. So all they're doing is identifying what we have and what we don't have and how it compares to other areas. So we don't get to the master plan until after we do a lot more research and community engagement, which hasn't been done yet for this report. It's simply an overall overarching look.
So you think you're gonna end up doing a survey?
Well, we haven't authorized it. We're not doing anything until we get to a joint meeting to reevaluate where we are. What we're doing.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, appreciate that. So
One last point, so to me, and I was thinking those, this very confusing if we go back out and survey again, should we did that, and I wasn't around other than to fill out the survey. But it seems to me to be very confusing, so I'd be very cautious about sending that message. And I think what Jim was trying to get to is, as this turns from research, which by the way is a very good document, I learned a lot about things that I didn't learn necessarily from the 123 odd pages that were in the MPAC plan. But it seems to me that rather than going to the plan, the research should be dovetailed in, and I think where Jim is probably going is a singular master plan, taking the one that these gentlemen and ladies put together and enhancing it with the outcome of this would be a much better result than an independent plan.
Yeah.
If that makes some sense.
Well, I'm gonna come off discussion on this topic.
I can tell you're getting uncomfortable.
Well, we've had this has been thoroughly discussed. It was a joint meeting. There was many views. But I will say is Celebration Residents Owners Association with us as their vehicle for free did a very large comprehensive report. Okay. We have gotten numerous support already from our board to continue progressing, and we will continue to progress. As other great value add and ideas come in, we will incorporate that. But this is the report that we did. It took over a year. It was based upon community input, surveys, community meetings, and the last 8 reports that said the same thing, by the way. And so we're going to continue, but as this group who's got fiduciary responsibility does their thing independently, if they have ideas that go aboard, we think makes sense, we will. But your questions about why can't we all work together, I'll talk further about that when we talk about the fact we can do a big shit together. Make it shit. So, thank you.
All right.
Okay, any other comments from the team here on this topic of the report? Stems.
Agree with you, sir. I think that's right.
But for those of you, many of us, so yeah, it should be one survey. We asked Stick Site with a red pen to mark up the survey. They marked it up. We took all of their comments that they took for the survey. Bob, we took their comments. They gave them a pen. Crosswalk questions, had questions. We didn't give them much time or phone, but we gave them about 72 hours and they marked up. We took their input so that, because by the way, they're really smart ones, right? They're really smart on surveys. They gave us some really good stuff, right? We put it in because they do surveys, we don't. So the thought process is as much as stuff that could be done once would make sense. They being professionals, exciting, who do this for a living, may want to do something more thorough in other venue, on other items. But we're going to continue progressing along because we've already, since we published this report, got funding for a major project, first major project in years. And we've gotten some conceptual approval on 2 other projects that we're going to progress on. So this is exciting. It's an exciting time of celebration. We're going to have splash pad this year. We're going to have 851 next year, sports next year. Hopefully we started. So it's exciting.
And also the board already approved our. We're already.
Yeah.
5 years, I think, maybe, I would say, probably.
Okay, so moving on to our last topic, just to visual person, I just listed if we go to our residents report that we did for the master plan that we published last August, and took those projects. Actually, no, the only thing that's new on here are the pool heating and the maintenance shed. We took those projects, which are apparently 19 projects that we're missing one add, subtract we can, and just wanted to have us be able to share at one place all the projects, which one, what's the general cost, who from this group will be the champion, right? Because each one of these needs a champion. So if you'd like to be a champion, you need to put your hand out. I'll go around and ask, how much, once the RFP is going to be done for the design, which is a column that's not here, what's going to be a project, once RFP issue, just some key dates on the key projects. We'll have the 7 project plans. This kind of is the master tracker for us to do a couple of things with this. One, to see what is it we should be working on next once these are prioritized, right? Now we know from this report, we're not going to redo the report. The report had a priority list, but what it didn't prioritize was within the parks enhancements. Should we do North Village before East? Right? So we're not gonna prioritize something that was in phase 2 right now and say let's do it next. We can, but the thought process here is let's take what we've said we were going to do. We said splash pad was listed 1, being done. RFP for the renovation town hall 2, multifunction court 3, etc. So I'd open this up to discussion, and I'd like to encourage people to discuss items 4 through 10, which is the parks enhancements, for people to state based upon not your personal preference, which you did very, but based upon what we've done in the report and any other factors, the conditions you put, which one of these projects do we think we should focus on first? And then for every project, if you're here sitting in a room around the table, whether or not you're going to still be on the master planning group future, depending upon how we get selected or whatever. Even if you're not, you could still be you could still be the champion of a project. If you're not on the group, that's okay. If you have a neighbor or friend who wants to be a champion, we need a champion, right? We've got more projects, more work than we do people around this table. So anyway, I'll open the floor up for discussion.
What's different about the Artesian Amplify, amphitheater, bathrooms, exit a high, everything else is medium to low. So I'm just curious what.
Oh, first of all, that don't cross off the priority list there. That was me setting it out to provoke discussion.
I always consider your own benefit.
Okay, so I just think as we looked at those, there was just so much discussion around the fact we have the amphitheater there. Okay, and we don't have bathrooms. And this is the other ones, like when you're doing a meeting room and a bathroom, that could be expensive. I made up 240,000, right? But it may not be as expensive, and it will make immediate impact to all the people who are getting married there, okay, bathroom, etc. So this is my priority.
From
So-
a finance standpoint, I think if we have bathrooms there, we get a lot more money in. Like,
Yeah, we have people inquire about using it for weddings quite frequently, but there's no place to hold their reception there and there's no restrooms there. So we get a lot of people that go elsewhere.
And
So it could
four
be-
people, yeah.
I mean, it's not gonna make you millions
No.
this year, but at least it would, not only would it provide
So,
restrooms in that area where there aren't any, but it also would be somewhat of a revenue generator.
And 3 out of the 4 people who responded back to me placed it as a high priority.
One did.
One did.
Yeah, what I said.
I don't know,
But that might change.
well,
Think of the rest of you.
here's why, so one people that did is, me needs meeting room, because that's what we're also on that. And we also, that is the same as what needs to be sitting there at this village next to the main field where I
Okay.
located it. At least getting the design process done to know how much it does cost as a whole piece.
Do you think, Mark, that we could replicate? That's it. Can we?
Yes.
One package?
That was my next sentence, is that it's the same building, we just put a different wrap on it with a slightly different design, just like on the house. So, same meeting room, same bathrooms, 3B, that changed our architectural style. So my plan would be is to design 2 or 3 of these, period, and roll them out as there's like. But meeting rooms are important to me in both East Village and the amphitheater. That's the same people that want it for a wedding or kind of want to get ready. For it, it was just-
So can we lump those maybe together as we, and then prioritize them within subset?
Okay, yeah,
Because are those, so I had Jones room up high.
yeah.
So is it some of these individual assets above those, are you sprinkling in,
Yeah, I think getting quotes for getting design and then quotes for both the 2 locations would make a lot of sense. And we do that, we can start that process this year. Looking, do it over the next year, we do 2026, something like that. And then, and if it's too much on one or the other, then, maybe we do part first, then.
Sure, so 2 locations, 3, right? It's North Village, East Lawn.
Yeah.
Amphitheater.
North Village, I can go both ways up, because there's already, there's kind of meeting room there, it's been done, that's inside the building there.
I agree with you.
And there's already pavilions, but what's not there is bathrooms, and 2 playgrounds. So there, to me, it could be bathrooms with an open pavilion, like it looks at the other end of the building. That will strength parts, and that's future.
Well, So what it would sound like though, is if you went out to an RFP, you'd ask just, you'd do it, tell me 3, if I just want to put in 3 locations, just bathrooms.
Yeah.
What would that little
Yeah.
building look like? And if I want to do the column, we may say, okay, North Village gets column A, which is just the bathroom.
Yeah.
Artist, East Lawn gets both.
Yeah.
And then Amphitheater gets either 1 or 2. Because my only concern with, I thought, because Mark's been saying this for a year, every time he says it, I cringe. When I put the meeting room in the bathroom, and I'm thinking, okay, even if it's small, it's 1,000 feet, 800 feet, and now I'm thinking 3 times 8, I'm thinking $250,000, $300,000 times 3, $1 million.
Yeah.
And that's versus, and I don't know what the impact of all of those are to the bigger community as opposed to other items.
Yeah.
But I think the first step is getting the design and the price, and then we can prioritize it. But right now, we don't have a price or design.
Or if you can develop 2 prototypes, one that's bathrooms of over a billion, or 2 bathrooms that closed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, Jones room, we were doing technology in there too.
Well, I think that's
That's what
what
it
more
is.
interior and infrastructure than it goes in expansion. I mean, we talked maybe there's expansion off the back, but I think that's a more significant. Okay, I think you can do something right now with just the technology to boost that up. Now, of course, we're living in that space right
Yeah, that's one.
That's why
To me, I put it a little down on the list just because
I did too.
going on Lakeside and also it's a town hall that's done.
Well,
Then we could.
That's
Where
very,
is
that's,
I don't even know where that is.
Lakeside.
Lakeside Park, it's where you go get it. It's across from the pool, it's that little building across the pool.
Be great.
Now, the other reason I would defer that, besides the fact that we're using it, is you could just reimagine it, which is what we're thinking. But if we are or are not gonna do the multi-generational thing, you would. Because some people said, well, let's just build that building and let's just knock that down and build something different. There's all sorts of things. But you would either invest a little bit of money there or a lot of money, but wouldn't that depend on if you're doing something next door or if you're doing something here?
What if you take it to tech and say, what's the most bang for the buck that we get in boosting this?
Yeah, you could spend 50
That's
bucks.
me.
You could something.
Yeah.
That's probably been,
A little bit of insurance, so.
Yeah.
Repaint.
what's the AV, like, 50 grand?
I mean, there's already a TV mounted on the wall, one of the bars that used to be in here
Yeah.
mounted on the wall, because it's a functional meeting room now for most of the committees.
Yeah.
We're looking at installing one of these Yay links, like used to be in 104, and now we're using here, and the microphones in there as well. So that's the.
That's probably fair.
That's right.
Minimal investment that you get.
That's it.
Benefit
Is
now.
the stick room still there?
Stick room is where the front counter is right now.
Oh, yeah.
That the ladies are in the closet.
Yeah.
So at that building, there's a meeting room in the middle, there's a little kitchen off to one side, and there's a little what was a conference room kind of for like 5 people, but now has 3 people working out of it, where the front counter is right now.
Yeah, the whole thing is sort of, there are a lot of problems now with not enough rooms here. So that Joe's room looks like everybody, oh, well, we ought to have that set, but the bottom line was when town hall's done, then we'll lose some of that need, right?
Yeah, that's why I think.
Not-
That's the problem.
If we look at it as just technology for now, and then let's just take everything else, I think.
I think that's short, that's a good grid.
Yeah, just been to, pretty good point, payment, technology, call it that. But once a 51.
So,
Valley.
And we live too much there until Kroll gets out, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
exactly. When
yeah,
it-
that's a year from now.
Rooms.
So, but just circling back on the bathrooms and either a pavilion or a indoor full-fledged meeting. So we need to have 2 designs done and get 2 prices done. And that is this year priority, not to put the shovel in the ground, but for us to be able to, I believe, later this year, say, okay, we've got all the information in. And now, prices, now let's debate which one goes where. But I think until we have that, it's because if it's cheaper or more expensive, that would influence if, the price difference isn't that much, and say North Village do both.
Yeah.
If it's really expensive, then, that you probably defer as opposed to sub-optimize and just do something you're not happy with. You maybe do one every 3 years, right? Which would be painful, but.
Yeah, so anyway, it's another design RFP. I think that put together to that. For me, for some of that help.
And that would go out like the end of the year.
I think that might,
Multi-courts is July.
I think we said multi-court, as we prioritize, we do multi-courts, and then those 3 or 1 times 2 would go out the end of this year. So,
Like in October time.
October 1st.
Before,
Or just pick November 1st.
so a lot's gonna depend on.
That's good.
Cash we have on.
You're gonna have to extend the time frame that you issue the RFP for, issue in November, because people
Yeah.
start leaving for Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah.
So
And the only
that's
reason,
what we ran into as far as that.
I just think at that point though, okay,
Sorry.
the reason I just deferred it a little bit is because at that point then we'll know for sure with 100% certainty how much town hall is gonna cost.
Yeah.
And at that point, if we do what we're on schedule for, we may or may not know, because we'll have the design work done. Then you could, We're cruising to put that out for a bid. We'll know how much the multi-purpose courts cost. Because if, depending upon that price tag, would influence the price tag on how robust your lead you were in our next step of parks enhancements. Because as a reminder, parks enhancements, right? Now, as we look at what we've done in here, okay, from my perspective, the exposure, the only exposure I knew about at the time, and that's what I'm trying to, is parks enhancements. We had a total of 850,000 for it. And that wouldn't cover, that's exposed if we decided to do a meeting room and bathrooms in those 3 locations. And again, you can push it out to, that's phase 1, right? You can push it out to phase 3. But so that's why I think it's important to see what the multi-purpose courts come into the net at 1.3 million and see what that comes out.
That's your ballpark price when you're getting this talked about. We're looking at maybe 2 or 3 buildings and restaurant thing would be almost the same.
Yeah.
Is there a ballpark for an estimate on somebody give us a design cost? It costs us 10,000, 50,000.
So town hall is what, 300, what's the AVQ one?
For them to do the construction and design.
Yeah, CDs,
Um,
280,
yeah, it's the 280 range.
Yeah, so for
okay, so for something like this,
7,500.
But we're pretty early, they're starting to pull together a generic idea of what you really want. You're not talking about 2 concrete block buildings sitting.
No, I'll be able to write out the scope and sketch out the footprint. So quite a bit of information, what the scope is, general size, what the idea is, and you get that very close to what the scope is. So
You might be worth it earlier.
well, that's exactly, yeah.
Cost $50,000. You're not. I know it sounds like a lot of fee, but it's
It'll be more, it's 50, but
it's pretty early.
yeah, it's 1,000% of those guys design by design, true design team, so they have that person. That's one problem they've had over the years, is they would throw it over it, I think that's a lot based on what should be. So that's what they're trying to avoid, is get things actually designed, you know what the cost is, so not just pay the upper end of the budget.
That's what I think we should tell you.
Yeah, so.
I'm having says, assuming don't cost as much as I thought, so.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, I think we can do our, actually, I didn't even look at other things, so, as we're talking about North Village and that concrete land between the 2 parks, possibly have pavilion thing, sort of like that type of picnic tables. Add that to it, okay, let's just a stick pavilion.
Yeah.
Design that also, so there's a set of items to do, they're all related. At once, and then we have the design. Just going from there, and then that scope is left for a firm to want to go to, supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so open pavilion with 2 bathrooms, say, meeting room with 2 bathrooms, that's a nice scope, but here's a set of things. To get a shot at design, get a set more, look at. Takes.
So 2 projects that were not in our report that we were asked by the Crow Board to take a look at, to evaluate, and prioritize, is one was, is pool heating, right? And we have half the quotes. Do we have the, wherever?
The gas quotes, Christian said he should be getting them shortly.
Okay, so there's 2 quotes. Gas heating and geothermal. Okay, and so we have the geothermal, we get the gas, we look, we decide which one, and then we prioritize the pools. All of them, none of them, one of them, 2 of them, 1 a year, next 3 years, etc. We gotta get the quotes first.
what's the interest in heating them? And what is it like?
Well, what happens this year when 2 that are heated, both either were working, a lot of people were ticked off. They said only 2 pools were heated by ours. I think it'd be, what I suggested last meeting is do one a year, 4 pools that are allowed. If we just spread them out, one over the next 4 years. Or if they keep,
They haven't been heated for 25 years. So if we can just do maintenance on the two to keep making sure that we've always got two heated, why would we spend money on more?
if the residents are excited about it. I mean, and
Disney has all heated
Okay.
pools.
So,
Disney makes billions of dollars a year.
so here's the question is, so what is we know what the demand is for splash pads, multi-purpose.
Yeah, yeah.
That survey you did. This hasn't been there. And so is there, because is there a lot of people or is it just a few vocal people? And we don't know that.
What's the cost? What's the geothermal?
It depends on the pool and the square footage.
that's basic.
But just give a ballpark, what do you think? Just
20 grand?
no.
See, I would say there's got to be more information. What do other communities do for heated pools? Are they all heated?
Is there a public comment period?
Well, no, allow them to make it,
So
interject,
For
yes.
East Village, it's
All right.
117,000.
117,000.
As someone who's built 3 clubhouse with pools, including, one at the Disney Golden Clubhouse,
Yes,
gas is efficient for, little whirlpools, but not for a large pool. It's overly expensive. We try to do it with gas.
Yeah.
The best heating mechanism for a larger pool that you're talking about is gonna be electric. Geothermal is also an option, but we've seen that could have some unintended consequences.
Thanks.
It's not as,
The only thing I differ on is that, Island Village has natural gas. So the gas system should be a lot cheaper.
Well,
it's
it's
not.
only 4 feet.
And it's only 4 feet.
Well, I mean, and I encourage you to get close, but
okay, but you're the guy, you've done, okay, well,
So,
It's from
gas is not
Island
efficient
Village,
for large
145.
area.
so we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep these pools. I think we need more data to say, I mean, because $150,000
For Island.
can,
just to do Island Village?
Well, that was the geothermal.
That was geothermal.
So why don't we line up a project to study these other 2 pools and 4 pools, however many more there are, in terms of whether or not there's big demand, small demand as a starting point.
What was heated or is heated? To me, it looks on it.
Yes, one, these two.
Your 2 last pools are heated.
So like pools are heated.
Right.
And there's a negotiation.
So if you're like heated pools, hop in the car. Drive to the.
And then that now has it.
There's a negotiation going on for the pool that should open next year, maybe.
phase 2.
Phase 2, they plan on it.
Okay.
Right, so then you have one in close proximity to kind of main rooms. This one you can get artisan in it.
So I think the key we can do is we need to find out the exact cost of,
Yeah.
and I think.
I do think we should get electric.
Okay, electric, so
Yes, I'll add that.
so add that, and we'll look at the cost, because if it's $20,000, well, I do have 4 pools. If it's $600,000, then somebody better, then before we might consider that, we would say, we need to go get data. Not Facebook, not, hey, I really got upset because school's broken and I couldn't use it. So data that would really support. And if you put a referendum out there to the town and said, you want to spend $600,000 to heat the pools, you know what that means? But and we want to do that because I don't think that's the right approach to do anything. But I think it's all, you gotta understand the cost to do it. And then vis-a-vis, would you want to spend $600,000 on that, or would you rather spend $600,000 on building 3 bathrooms and meeting rooms? The Mark is pet project, right? It's like, right, you can put 3 of those, you can build 3 of those for $700,000 versus pools, but that's a good discussion to have. Meeting rooms, bathrooms, pools.
So is it redoing the systems that are here that we signed? Is that
No.
part of it? Or not?
No, this is for the
No,
pools.
that's
Don't-
right.
That's our,
So these are done, so
It's all
all
the
we're
other
talking about
pools.
is doing all.
North Village, East Village, Spring Lake, and I'm going to change.
He's still a job, cheap score, right on top.
Yeah.
So I said, okay,
So if you're looking for a volunteer, I'll take and run with being costs with Laura.
Excellent.
One supporter of wanting to do it, Jim will be interviewed to make sure we get this meeting authorized.
Okay, excellent. The second project that we were asked to take a look at is the current analyst maintenance shed, the right term.
That's what we thought.
Okay, so the current maintenance shed, which is down the street to the right, has multiple issues and concerns, namely the fact that there's not a operational backhoe. There's a portage on, male and female employees there. We have a leaky roof. We have a building that was not meant to be used as it was not designed to be used as it is, and many more issues. So, and the redesign of 851, where some of that work was being done, does not accommodate that, nor probably should. So we have a problem there. And we don't have much available real estate, nor money. But it's a very important, legitimate problem. And you could solve one of the, so the employees come here and use these bathrooms. Okay, you could solve a bunch of them. You could put the roof on, you can do what do, but is that really a long-term solution for a town of 12 to 14,000 people? That your maintenance shed is that. Okay, so at the last meeting, we discussed that up behind the library, our friends at CCDD have a very large maintenance area. Is there room there? Is there room to expand there, to cohabitate there? There's conversations back in 2022. So I am going to, unless, not to ask, I'm going to write a letter on behalf of the board, on behalf of the group, to both boards, say, can you please designate one or two people to get together in a room and discuss the feasibility? Okay. I've had some informal discussions that did not go really well. Okay, for that, I won't get into the details, but I thought that this would be a good example of us all working together, right? Assuming we would fund any additional parking that was needed or buildings that were needed up there, that didn't appear that the appetite was there. So I'm just gonna write a letter to ask them to go meet. And if they decide not to go meet on it, then fine. Because for us to go build something brand new on a piece of land, which would be, where would that piece of land be?
Lot D's really the only space that we got.
Lot D. So we would go build something new on Lot D, we're on Lot A. Okay, why would we have two maintenance areas within 50 feet of each other? So
We can't build where it's at.
Not a lot of space. There's not, can't really expand them.
There's setback.
Where,
That substation right there.
where are you talking about?
Look, your current location.
Well, yeah, but it's also, you don't have plumbing, you gotta do sewage, plumbing.
yeah, I imagine it's not even applying to this thing, it's meant to be a shed, so I bet it doesn't. apply to
You'd have to, a lot of plumbing, substations, pumps,
buildings.
but it's take an existing maintenance area, expand. So I'm gonna write that letter, very short, a couple of you, just asking the two groups to designate somebody to see if it's possible. And if not, then, because for us to go build on Lot D, that's expensive to go. Let me better get engineering, put it in, it's
It
expensive.
also did, like,
Wait, where's the other?
anything else.
It's in, I don't know what you call it, it's right behind, the CCDD. That's what CCD makes, so they have a large area, right? And it's only got one bathroom, it's got some, there's one bathroom, one conference room, I understand it, but then just let us build something potentially out in the parking lot, then we take away the parking space. If it was simple, it would have been done, but I think for the residents of Celebration to know that all the maintenance people, regardless of whether or not they work the sidewalk in and the sidewalk out, nobody knows nor cares about that. They know that there's a dozen people here doing maintenance, a dozen people there. And, if they could eventually share a common area, or, hey, I need a golf cart, I well, your golf cart, say you got some tools, I don't know. I just mention.
As Island Village is growing. How on earth is that gonna be?
There's not really a lot of space out there for us to create a secondary satellite area. That's a struggle that we've been talking about with Mattamy.
Yeah.
Because phase 2 is pretty much, it's fully planned and done and platted, and there's no space for us to put anything. Phase 3 just only has open green spaces, and so does phase 4. So you're really losing
That,
out on space.
But then
if
there's
we
all
get
that
baseball
space.
fields in the green space, we put up a baseball storage facility, then we can put a fields, right? You have one building, like all the other baseball fields down and that have the maintenance facility on site with their storage.
But he said,
That's what I understand. Yes.
Plus, but you mentioned this, Lauren, before the meeting. You can't send a net down to Island Village, correct?
No,
no,
So if you
that's
have,
why I brought it up.
yeah, you can, so if you have a dispatch, guy says, I need to break the lawnmower down.
And I assume
Well, they'll have the lawnmower at the baseball field because they'll be cutting baseball.
this Island Village keeps
It's
going,
all-
does it connect?
it all works.
It does not. So, right.
not yet.
Yeah,
Well, it's approved by actually Will County,
yeah.
but they are funded to do that.
Okay.
Osceola Road.
Well, I know it's gonna do that, but yeah, to us.
No,
Yeah.
it's not.
So it's just this huge long tail with
Yes.
absolutely no way to get to it except.
It'll take 30 minutes from Artisan to get all the way to the back. Island Village.
Anyway, we have to think about that too.
So anyway, I'm gonna write the letter and then we can discuss this at the next meeting. So if we could, just in the interest of letting everybody participate in this process, so we are looking for champions of projects, right? Mark, I've got me down for town hall. Who wants to be the champion for the 8 multi-function courts on lot B? You need a champion.
Wrote the damn.
What's that?
I've already drawn it and written the RFP. So
That's different than being the champion of the project.
Good point.
Champion of the project is, you know, weekly. Kind of working with Lauren and her team. How's it going? How can I help? Right? It's just making sure everything is progressing along, right? And this is somebody overall looking at that. Okay, I'm gonna skip that one because maybe I'll do that one after the splash. Okay.
I was able to put it all the way through.
Okay, so Jim, we still have you down with the parks enhancements, but I work in that. Is that something you still would?
Yeah, I'll have to work with other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
The expert on.
None of us are experts on these.
Yes.
No, but you can,
But I
you can mention, you can reach out to Mark, how's those, you can stuff. Okay, so Jim, we have for that. Alec, I didn't see your name down here, what did you want to volunteer?
I want to champion the bathrooms. I think as the only female
Okay,
on our committee, I think it's important to have.
which bathrooms are we talking about?
That's under the park enhancements. So-
You want to work with Jim?
Yeah,
Okay, so you can, that's huge, so you want to work, these parks enhancements is one of the.
it's just
This-
one. Isn't that like the parent one though?
You're gonna end up with.
Isn't there 3 bathrooms?
Yeah,
Three sets of bathrooms.
Yeah, whether or not estimated or not, bathrooms are probably gonna be the same. So.
Right.
figure-
Well, and I wanted to do the east one.
Yeah.
East one, so.
Yeah, but I think as a team, because if you said I just want to do the East Lawn ones and then he's doing the other ones.
Yeah, so it's
a
two
package.
factors, because to me it's one.
Okay.
So I'm saying.
So Jim?
Not all the same.
Mark, Joanne.
Yeah.
Okay, that's. Bob, you volunteered for the pools and heating. Dennis, I had your name next to the maintenance shed because you would have want to show the initiative if I go out there. I'll keep with that one. That's. Okay. That kind of is close enough. Okay, so,
And then Jones Road, right?
I was gonna say Jones Road, I was gonna see if you skipped over.
no, Jones Room is part of, no, Jones Room is items 4. That's all parks enhancements. So those are all,
Oh,
right, so that's some team.
okay.
Uh,
It's VAB. Jones Room and also that North Village forward thing.
Yes.
What we're doing.
Yes.
Fix that,
Yeah, but,
get that working.
so Alec, which one are you doing? You're gonna work with me on sports?
Yeah.
Got it, thank you. Sports course. Okay. Any additional questions, comments? I'd like to add something very important, right? Because the deadline is in 15 minutes. For those of you who have not re-upped, which is many of you in this room, if you'd like to re-up to the master planning group, you have 15 minutes to fill out an application. If you don't fill out an application in 15 minutes, cannot serve unless you, like Alec last time, forgot to fill out the application.
No. Oh, yeah, that birthday party.
I just want to make sure it's paying attention.
That's why I copied you on this last.
I instead of copying, a lot. So listen, seriously, fill out the application if you want. We love to have it all. But if you don't, then you're gonna have to be approved, post approval, it's. Right, so please fill out the application, hand it to Laura, right now. So that was my last item. Any other comments from the gallery? Want to go to your third time slot? Oh, we only had two. Want to do the third one? Good.
Somebody's got any more questions or comments?
We good. I appreciate your input. Very much appreciate it. Anything else?
I know a good spot to put an arts and playground that has to be on their lane. I'm pretty worried about that later.
Yeah.
Remember their land.
There's
Their land is our land.
We should just put that sauce there.
Yeah, there it is.